Hi and welcome to Indigo Starfire. My name is Bevin, and in this video I'm going to be looking into the question, what has your divine counterpart realized about you and the connection? There are three groups to choose from. Group 1 is the Black Moonstone. Group 2 is the Blue Calcite. And group 3 is the Mookaite Jasper. So if you want to take a moment to center, focus on your breathing, and feel whichever group, maybe multiple groups, or perhaps all of the groups that you're most drawn to, I'll give you a minute to make your selection and then we'll get right into it. And there are timestamps in the description box of the video for each group if you'd like to jump ahead. And up next is a close-up photo of the crystals to help you better make your selection. Hi, Group 1. Chose the Black Moonstone. So I'm just going to be using oracle cards for this reading, and let's get right into that question. What has your divine counterpart realized about you and the connection? Okay, so we have the blue flame, spontaneous awakening, activation, integration time. Heareth, longing for home, homesick for the stars. And lifting the veil, questioning everything, anything unaligned must go. So there's a sense here if you're in a no contact situation with your divine counterpart, or maybe sporadic or limited contact, they are sensing some sort of shift or up leveling in your energy, maybe a process of purging that you have recently gone through, any kind of accelerated growth as far as your spirituality practices. It feels like that you have been deliberately or consciously involved in to kind of raise your vibration, to heal, maybe even kind of create opportunity for yourself in other areas of your life that have very successfully had some sort of energetic effect upon you. This is essentially boomeranged over, or is creating some sort of reverberation over to your divine counterpart, to where it feels like their energy and their attention is now kind of directed more towards you, closer towards you, sort of like a fixation combined with a pull in your direction. Your light has increased and they are now drawn towards you like a moth to the flame. So you may be getting a lot as far as dreams, maybe indicating that they are coming back in, resurfacing for communication or contact. You may have even heard from them, or your intuition is telling you that things are starting to shift, things are starting to change, almost a sense of something happening, but not really being sure what that is. All of that can be reflective of, again, some sort of energetic shift that you have undergone, has been consciously recognized by your divine counterpart, although it feels like they are in the process of kind of grappling what it all means. So they may be going through some kind of ascension at this point in time themselves. Vice versa, you might be picking up on a lot of their ascension symptoms, fluctuations within their vibration. And it feels like as they're in this process, maybe even of awakening finally, and going through that whole, journey and experience of ascension, some dark night of the soul energy. Maybe for some, they're just kind of coming out of that, but they're seeing you and recognizing you as this kind of guiding light. And it feels it goes way beyond just on a subtle energetic level. There are conscious thoughts that are directed towards you, towards the idea of reaching back out, towards the idea of developing things further between the two of you, towards this essence of wanting to spend more time with you if you're still in contact with one another. So whatever it is that you've been doing as far as your own kind of personal healing, your spiritual journey, your growth in this lifetime, at this particular juncture in time, it's almost like the lines of energy are very open, very clear between the two of you. There's a lot of exchange between the two of you, mostly due to, again, whatever it is that you have been doing to up level. And so they are recognizing you. It feels like kind of with the idea of lifting the veil, it's almost this essence of sort of rubbing the sleep from their eyes, being able to discern more clearly that they are drawn towards you. Attraction may be going up towards you or resuming towards you. If this is someone you haven't seen in a while, haven't talked to in a while, they may have looked you up online, have seen photos of you, or even just tapping into your energy or the memories of you, and it's almost like it's re-sparked things that had been dormant for quite some time. It's a renewed level of interest. It's a sense of almost feeling you energetically as a source of nourishment, as a place of solace, and that can also tie into things that are happening with them as far as kickstarting and awakening. Maybe this was even just the time in your journey with this person where you've done the work, you've laid the foundation, you've kind of created a map forward energetically and experientially for this is the direction to head in, through that process of awakening. And so now that they're kind of coming online or starting to really sort of question the nature of reality, the nature of themselves, just everything involved with the whole ascension journey and process, they've honed in on you as kind of this focal point of wanting to lean in deeper. And it feels to be something that there may be a lot that is kind of rapidly unfolding for them. Again, dream space is coming through, so a lot of energy that might be exchanged, downloads, meeting with one another in the astral realm, to where it's almost, relatively speaking, kind of, for some it'll be daily. There's this increased kind of draw towards you. For others, this feels to be something on kind of like a weekly or bi-monthly basis, that like with every lunar cycle almost, they're drawn closer to you. So cumulatively, there may be some progress in your journey overall, especially if you've been in a place where it has felt very stagnant. It feels like for people that have kind of released a divine counterpart, you've just sort of headed off in another direction with your own healing and your own sort of, other pursuits and journey in this lifetime. This feels to be something that there's now kind of this appropriate distance or this proximity between the two of you, maybe in terms of the time since you've seen or interacted with one another, or even energetically speaking, to where there's now really the stage has been set for your divine counterpart to kind of wake up and start to do that work energetically or within their own life to rise to the occasion to meet you. They're fixated on you. They've honed in on you. And it's this gradual progression of starting to question, come up with answers, receive kind of this downloads and this guidance and this illumination as far as why are you this focal point at this particular juncture in their life? What has sparked this kind of renewed interest or this hunger to kind of experience more of you or lean in closer to you energetically speaking, which may be particularly confusing for those of you that have been in like a no contact or a substantial amount of time since you were last dealing with your divine counterpart. The resurgence of the memory of you or the idea of you or desire or draw towards you, it feels that that's part of the nature of their awakening at this point in time, is to question all of that in the same way that you did once upon a time to come to the place where you're at now, wherever that is on your journey. This feels to be something that now their cycle is starting, and what that will look like, the steps that they'll take, obviously that'll be different for everybody. We live in a free will zone here, so for the best intentions, if people don't follow through on that work and effort, it can always just be sort of wishful thinking energy. But for a lot of people, it feels like this is now sort of the phase where maybe even for the divine counterpart that has been sitting for a while in wishful thinking energy, this is kind of that momentum. This is that movement. This is that I'm going to get up and do something. I'm not going to shame myself for thinking about this person. I'm going to become curious. I'm going to become, the explorer of kind of what are these feelings? How do I reconcile this with whatever's going on in my reality, whatever our dynamic is? How do I move closer to answers rather than sort of just sitting and stewing and kind of hovering in this energy of being unwilling to change, unwilling to move, unwilling to progress? There feels to be a substantial shift in the direction of some kind of up-leveling, rising to the occasion to kind of meet you at that vibration. So let's get a few more of these, and then I'll get into some message cards. Okay, we have Wish Upon a Star, Call of the Muse, and Smoke and Mirrors. So smoke and mirrors, obviously very literally, they're seeing you as a reflection of them. Ways in which that reflection may have been very hard for them to handle in the past and could have led to a cycle of kind of running and chasing. Maybe that is something that has sparked or spurred this sort of change within your divine counterpart. Is for those of you who have kind of given up the chase, you've redirected the focus elsewhere, you've kind of turned that gaze inward. You're looking at the person in the mirror, and kind of working with what you have right there, focusing the effort and attention on things that you do have control over, sort of relinquishing the need or desire as much maybe to know what is going on with this other person, or to quest or question in that capacity. It's something to where now their unwillingness to kind of look at what you were illuminating for them as far as uncomfortable aspects of themselves, things that they had kind of been in denial with, or even things that were so similar that it was just a little too close for comfort and might have sent them running. It's almost like now they are starting to face that. Now they're starting to look at all of these things. There may be a series of events that have happened that have caused them to have to go in and introspect for reasons kind of unrelated to the situation, and it feels like they are now kind of in a phase of that process where questions are sort of pointing back towards you, towards something within your energy, things that you've said, experiences that you have had with one another. It feels like there's a sense of a lot of just almost flashbacks or these random kind of memories, experiences, things that had kind of just passed them by, had sort of flown under the radar before, are now taking on this new gravity and significance. Your words are starting to make sense. The experiences that they once maybe didn't value, didn't appreciate, had pushed away or rejected. There's now this kind of pulling back in that energy of memory and sifting through things from a different lens, from a different perspective. And again, it ties into this idea of like wish upon a star. You've raised your vibration. You've up-leveled in some way. Your self-focus, your turning of that attention, even in the slightest capacity inside. Maybe for some of you, this is just the sprouting of the question for the first time of how is this situation, whatever that dynamic looks like with the divine counterpart, how is this serving my personal highest good? Maybe you're starting to ask questions about if you should continue to hold space for this person, or start to, set your sights elsewhere as far as love and romance, or pour that focus into yourself, become that love that you are seeking. Whatever direction, however far into that sort of shifting of the lens you are, it has had some sort of effect upon this other person. They're seeing you as almost kind of a leader in the realm of compassion, which is very interesting, and very interesting kind of way for that sort of channeling to come through. So it almost feels to be something where they're definitely also, with that energy of call of the muse, looking towards you literally or energetically speaking as some sort of an inspiration to them, to push through barriers. But it feels like, more importantly, back to that kind of essence of whatever it is you're mirroring, you are instilling them with sort of a courage to look inside or make some changes in their life, change the way that they're viewing themselves, they're talking to themselves, that they're thinking about the connection itself, or life in general. It can be kind of a full range and spectrum of what's really coming up, but in a way that is not confrontational. They're seeing something about kind of you with like a gentleness with which you lead, a degree of understanding, ways in which you sort of hold your own energy, or you hold space for yourself. It's something that they're observing and they're absorbing a lot from you, which it feels like is helping them to kind of navigate and strategize some sort of way beyond a hesitation that has come up, a trigger that has come up, something that has made them in some way sort of question to continue down this path toward this person, or following sort of these feelings that have come up, this sense of connectivity. It's this underlying knowing that on some level, aspects of themselves or their life needs to fundamentally change in order to continue to remain in sync and in alignment with that vibration, with that essence, with that feeling. And it's something that it feels like they may have very much been in fear of before, that could have accounted for like a pulling away, or even just an underlying tension or hesitation if you're still in contact with one another. But it feels like they're almost kind of relinquishing that. They're coming into a space of ease with the idea of almost rising into love, or blossoming out of kind of the essence and the genesis of whatever has occurred between the two of you. Whereas in the past, or up to this point in time, it's almost to lean in closer, brought up these feelings of, I don't know what will happen on the other side of that. Any defense mechanisms I have are almost of no use in this territory where things have evolved and have grown in a very beautiful capacity. So what they once feared about this connection, you're almost ushering in this place of honoring that fear in and of itself, which is yielding a degree of them feeling safe within your presence, safe within looking at the uncomfortable parts of themselves, even sort of safe sustaining some sort of distance between the two of you, because there may be some kind of a new energetic understanding that has happened. Something on like the quantum level where your higher self perhaps has sort of given them the green light to follow that urge for the introspection, follow that urge for change and growth and development from the inside. And it's something that it's almost like you've given them permission for their parcel of the journey at this particular point in time, which it feels like is kind of registering energetically as like a gift that people haven't given them before. So this can be somebody who's really used to conditional love, or needing to sort of fit a certain expectation, or adhere to very strict kind of parameters or roles in the lives of other people. And it's something to where there's an essence of almost freedom within kind of words that are unspoken, or space in between your interactions. There's a sense of, that you encourage them to kind of roam within the borders of themselves. So there's almost kind of this like mystic, or like a teacher sort of energy here, where just you living your life, you focusing on kind of cultivating that best life for yourself, embodying that best version of you on an ever-changing basis. All of this is kind of deciphered and perceived and picked up on. They picked up on your scent, and they're kind of following that beyond these sort of gateway or threshold of fear that may have kept them sort of locked in a state of dormancy. There's now this process of awakening, a greater sort of understanding that the more they surrender to this process, the more they go through the tumultuous and often confrontational experience of having to look very deeply inside and own what it is that one finds there, for better or worse, that you in a certain way, even if your experiences of this are going to be very different from one another in a material sense, they're seeing you as somebody who's almost kind of walked this path to a certain capacity, or are a companion with them in like a parallel kind of route sort of sense, a parallel pathway sort of sense, that you are leading, or you've led at this particular point in time. And it's now a space of gratitude that at least there's kind of a light at the end of the tunnel to move toward, or a light to be their kind of companion, or their sounding board energetically. Or for some, this can even be kind of a prelude to some communication, some kind of conversation, something where it opens the lines of dialogue for the two of you to start to talk about maybe some more of these high level spiritual concepts, ascension, anything that's really going on between the two of you, or that your divine counterpart is experiencing. This can even be somebody that pops back up out of nowhere if you haven't talked to them in a while, and they've gone through some things as far as ascension is concerned in the time since you've been with one another, or even just recently as a result of some kind of elevation in your own vibration, that you might kind of hear from this person as evidence of that moth to the flame sort of energy, needing to come in closer, needing to kind of template in some way the frequency that you're emitting, interact with you, interface with you in a certain way, because it feels like they're almost kind of taking in or processing a lot of data on a subconscious level during those interactions, or during some sort of effort to reach out in any kind of dialogue and exchange you have back and forth, that there's going to be so much more than what exists on the surface. They're taking a lot in to kind of compare notes with whatever it is they're deciphering, or sifting through, or being shown, or finding through their own kind of process of beginning their journey, or stepping into the next sort of phase and layer of their own spiritual awakening journey. So let's get some messages and see what your divine counterpart wants you to know right now. Okay, and they say I'm overthinking everything. So again, a lot of downloads, telepathy, things happening in dreams that could be sort of revealing startling aspects of the connection that they hadn't appreciated before. Again, that essence of sort of picking back over memories or conversations that you've had with them and your words ringing true. They are finally, it feels like, able to read between the lines a little bit more and kind of see the bigger picture and starting to sort of understand or decipher maybe more of the fine sort of threads or layers of the spiritually based connection between the two of you. So definitely, as far as like these oracle cards are concerned, and even sort of what's coming through at this point in time, it feels like a lot of what they've realized is something on that kind of higher plane. It's more than just kind of an emotional realization. There's something almost of making a connection between like higher self and 3D self, and really, sort of pulled beyond the parameters of how they've understood love and partnerships up to this point in time, the dynamic between the two of you, their view of themselves, their kind of view of the world, the nature of reality. So definitely for a lot of people, this is the group, or this is the divine counterpart going through the spiritual awakening. So you might be picking up on that energy from them. Might be a good idea to try and ground your energy, cleanse your energy, protect your energy, just whatever it is that you need to do, because it feels like there are things happening with this person, and you're closely enough connected that, and it again, there's this attention kind of directed as you are a guiding light, or a light at the end of the tunnel, to where there may be a lot of intensity sort of added on to whatever else it is that you are going through at this time in your own sort of personal journey. So that might help provide context for some people that are like, what's going on with all these ascension symptoms? It's probably you, and then also your divine counterpart going through some phase of up-leveling or awakening. They also say no one else matters now. So there's that confirmation of that light at the end of the tunnel energy, following your frequency, following sort of the memories of you, the experiences of you, or anything they are able to sort of glean or decipher or see at this point in time. If they're checking out your social media, kind of peeping from the shadows and all that good stuff, they definitely are very fixated and focused on you at this particular point in time. Now for some, they'll kind of linger in that observer energy as they go through this process of unfolding and ascending and kind of moving through the layers of whatever's happening with them at this particular point in time. For others, this is the essence of an individual who's kind of building up that sense of determination, kind of revving their engine to make some sort of move toward you, to reach out, to convey something, to create more closeness in the connection. They also say, I want a future with you. So there's definitely an interest in moving beyond whatever your connection looks like to one another at this point in time. This feels, if you're in no contact, this is not a person who just wants to come back and repeat old cycles with you. Even kind of bringing forth the word reconciliation doesn't feel appropriate, or doesn't feel to fit with sort of what the essence of intention is in this energy. This is very much somebody who wants to kind of leapfrog beyond whatever the cycle or phase was that you were stuck in with one another before, you've experienced with one another, or you're currently kind of involved in. There's a desire to kind of break boundaries, break barriers, move into a different sort of experience. And with that is kind of the essence of someone who's being prepared energetically to be able to sustain that in a material sense. They also say, I just want to go back in time. So more confirmation of thinking back over conversations that you've had, your words ringing true, kind of wishing that they had some sort of guidance, some sort of advice from you, that they could talk about these things, that you could be that sounding board. If you're still in communication with one another, this may be adding to a degree of almost awkwardness or avoidance. Maybe on both your parts, kind of pivoting off one another, sort of drawn toward one another, but deeply triggered by one another, because there's a sense of so much coming through into clarity at this particular point in time for your divine counterpart, that there's also some element of frustration that they hadn't seen things clearly before, that there was something they almost missed before, kind of the essence of, how could I have missed this the first time around? How could I have, pushed away this intensity before? How could I have been scared of these feelings feelings before. It'll be different for everyone, but it's this essence of sort of learning from the past, but again, really being focused on sort of breaking the boundary and barrier beyond whatever has been sort of the nature of your situation with one another. Any sort of triggers, the limits and capacities before people get triggered, before wounds are sort of exacerbated. There's a sense of almost your divine counterpart understanding instinctually that they need to kind of create some different sort of barriers or borders within themselves in order to be able to move towards you at this point, bringing something to the table that truly helps to kind of crystallize in that intention of transcending boundaries, rather than bringing forth something that was the same energy you've been dealing with them in up to this point in time. And they also say we will be together again. So very determined to create change, action, movement, acceleration, transcendence within this connection. And for a lot of people, this is starting with the process of kind of finally looking at themselves, finally opening up to seeing why the intensity of this connection has been so triggering. What about you has sort of elicited something within them that has caused some sort of reflex to pull away, or to become skeptical, or guarded, or question, or fearful, or hesitant about sort of what comes next. So they are doing the work, but it's almost a journey within. And they also say, I want to be vulnerable with you. So more of that essence of preparing themselves to have some kind of conversation, to re-enter your life, preparing themselves to continue to move and grow and evolve with you to the next level. If they're sensing the shifts and the changes within things that you've been doing, there's a sense of them not wanting to be left behind, but also not wanting to kind of be a burden or weigh you down. There's a sense of them understanding energetically things have changed or are changing with you to the capacity that if they don't do the work, they will be left behind. So it's almost a pressure or an incentive to be willing to sort of go through whatever's happening with them energetically, whatever it is they're needing to sort of go into their personal underworld and confront and deal with and infuse with compassion and acceptance and understanding. That is something, it's a personal path. It's something that they need to do. There's no easy way out of it. There's no shortcut. There's no quick fix. It requires that kind of diligence and effort and consistency and discipline. And it's something to where a lot of things it feels like that they were avoiding, or that they had been kind of shown or reminded of when dealing with you, even just sparked or triggered energetically speaking. It feels like a lot of people have sort of turned that corner to, I don't want to just let this opportunity slip through my fingers. I don't want to be left behind. As you continue to kind of grow and evolve, yes, you are the light at the end of the tunnel, but that light continues to kind of, like with this star energy here, sort of move along the horizon. It's not a fixed point. Your divine counterpart feels fixated on you, but there is some sort of understanding that they've got to actually get up and do something, or they run the risk of you kind of drifting out of sight, out of access. Them being kind of limited or barred from sort of entry or re-entry into your world going forward. So there's a lot of motivation here. A lot of people that it feels like are starting to take this very seriously as far as whatever has shifted for them, whatever has really is happening as far as ascension and awakening. They're taking that time to kind of look within. So let's get some initials. This can be a first, middle, or last name of you or your divine counterpart, or can spell something out, just whatever resonates for you. Got K, G, X, C, U, A, J, O, T, S, V, M, Z, T, W, I, Q, F, I, and S. So those are your messages. I hope that they resonated with you and that you enjoyed the reading. If you like the video, please give it a thumbs up, comment, subscribe, or share. If you'd like a personal reading, I offer them through my Etsy shop, and there's a link to that in the description box of the video. I offer a variety of pre-recorded video readings, written readings, and channeled letters. Turnaround time on everything is 5 to 7 days from the time of purchase. I also sell handmade jewelry, dream catchers, and sun catchers if you're interested in checking any of those out as well. I hope to see you again in another reading. Please take care and be well. Hi, Group 2. It shows the blue calcite. So I'm just going to be using oracle cards for this reading, and let's dive right into that question. What has your divine counterpart realized about you and the connection? Okay, we have portal, doors are opening, you decide, rewards, wild card, lifting the veil, questioning everything, anything unaligned must go. And messenger, serious energy, bringing harmony and balance. So there's a sense here of you defying in many ways what your divine counterpart had been anticipating would be the essence and embodiment of what they had maybe dreamed or had been fantasizing or had been trying to manifest in for themselves in terms of the one, or romantic connection. Almost a sense of sort of over time, maybe in the course, in the wake of heartbreaks, sort of sending these prayers off to the wind, wishing on a shooting star almost, for a particular person. If only I could find somebody that understood me like this, that accepted me for these layers of who I am, who I could see myself in a compatible, high vibrational, loving connection with, and kind of almost a sense of very passively sort of setting intentions. And lo and behold, divine has provided them with the answer to those prayers in the form of you. This may lead to a bit of almost, it feels like wish fulfillment is what they recognize you as on some level, but then for a lot of people it feels like this has triggered a lack mentality, or almost a sense of, am I worthy to receive something like this? So you may be experiencing, it's like a runner-chaser situation. That lack mentality could have definitely sparked or inspired them to hit the road and kind of move off in the other direction. If you're still sort of dealing with your counterpart at this particular point in time, there may be a wall or an impasse that's very difficult to get through. Almost like somebody that could be very engaged in conversation and at a certain point becomes so overstimulated that they're zoning out. There's almost like a threshold on a certain level of them fully sort of embracing and understanding that wish fulfillment is here, that kind of the love that they've been seeking, the love that they are inside exists, and in the mirrored form and embodiment of this other person, of you, this person who is currently in their life or was in their life before, and it's this essence of sort of being unwilling to accept that it's their time, it's their season, it's their bounty that is here for them at this point in time. So there's a sense of almost kind of, you present for your divine counterpart a maze which leads very deeply within themselves to try and unlock, and this might even stem to kind of a larger pattern of a lack mentality within their life in general that has limited opportunities for them. It's created certain life circumstances based on their belief in some level that they are unworthy of receiving, or almost somebody that might be leaning into a degree of almost toxic humility, kind of denying themselves wish fulfillment on so many levels, because they're almost kind of perhaps feeling that it wouldn't be proper to get everything that you want, or looking at the company they keep, the people around them, and a sense of almost, if my wishes are fulfilled, there aren't people that are going to celebrate that, or it doesn't align. My idea of happiness doesn't align with what other people around me have equated with happiness. So a lot of kind of just comparing and contrasting sort of what it is that they've been calling in subconsciously, what has arrived in the form of you and this feeling and this bond and this connection, versus kind of almost an essence of sort of like, how does this fit into the life I was living before this person came into my world, came into my equation. If it's something where you're at a distance from one another, no contact situation, again, kind of looking around at their life currently and recognizing almost that you add a degree of vibrancy, hope, and potential belief within your divine counterpart that much more is possible for themselves than they've almost settled for, than they've received, than they've pursued, than they've chased, and they've gone after in terms of like other goals in their life in general, due to some sort of inherent or ingrained disbelief that to have levels of success in like all areas of their life is somehow not in alignment with living like a high vibrational life, or it's not in alignment with what other people around them are doing. So they may be surrounded by a lot of toxicity, a lot of noise, a lot of kind of lower vibrational patterns that are sort of clouding their judgment, clouding their view of themselves. It feels like that you represent kind of totally the opposite side of the coin in many ways from anyone they've had a romantic connection with. Something about your energy, the way you live your life, feelings that you have sparked within your divine counterpart, it's very different from anything they've known. So there's a sense of almost like a fear of that unknown, a desire to move towards that, a desire to find a way to create space for this connection in their life, or for some, this can even be sort of a fear of those bigger questions of the life that they've created for themselves, and how much is this in alignment with who they truly are as a person, their personal idea of happiness versus what has been expected for them or templated by them through like family or community. So you almost nudge them to think bigger or think outside of the box, but it feels like for a lot of people at this particular point in time, and this is sort of the struggle. This is that element of, the place where kind of character is forged or authenticity comes through, is this very sort of tough essence of, are you going to, continue in the patterns that you've been in or in the life that you've been living, or are you going to follow this very kind of unique, almost like a once in a lifetime energy call towards something else that requires trust, that requires faith, that requires some sort of cleansing or purifying or purging of layers within themselves, layers of their material existence. It's definitely kind of like an either or sort of energy, to where you are this invitation towards something more in romance, something more in terms of what they would need to kind of do or become from within themselves, that may unlock greater doors of opportunity for them. A sense of, in some way, not that you complete them or that you're like a missing piece, but it's almost the sense of an urge to move towards you that they understand will open up some ability for them to enjoy the life that they are living more, or to start to have kind of the clarity, the motivation, and support to make necessary changes for themselves in order to align more closely with whatever that best version of life, the life they're excited to live every single day, the kind of life they don't need a vacation from. You represent the essence of that in a person, and it feels to be something that is very alluring and at the same time very intimidating, very challenging for them to kind of wrap their head around the idea that, yes, this blessing is real and it has their name on it. So let's get a few more oracle cards, and then I will get into some message cards and see what your divine counterpart wants you to know from their higher self. Okay, we have a grand symphony, time machine, and beautiful uncaging. So this time machine energy is this wheel of fortune. This is, again, fortune kind of favoring them, luck on their side, a very blessed occurrence that they have encountered you. There's a sense here of almost they could see forever with you, which could be very challenging for those of you where this connection with your divine counterpart is, relatively speaking, fresh. It's a newer connection. That whole idea of sort of thinking, 5 years down the road, 10 years down the road, decades down the road, this may be something that is, it almost feels to be something that has sort of turned the needle of their compass in a very particular direction, and yet there's a sense of, I don't know if I should be walking that way because it feels really abundant and good, but I don't feel worthy of such goodness within myself. So they're not really able to kind of equate that they have magnetized in this situation because they are ready for it. There's some kind of challenge of sort of stepping up into that vibration within themselves in order to align with kind of what's been presented. But it feels to be something, with the idea of like beautiful uncaging, big feelings that have arisen, but they're kind of keeping themselves on lockdown. They're keeping themselves back from sort of fully embracing the idea that yes, things are turning in this direction. Yes, the love that they have been seeking, kind of crying out for within themselves, maybe for quite some time, has finally arrived. It's tangible. It's here. It's kind of the wake up call. This is also giving me the impression of like wedding bells. So again, this essence of they can see really far down the road with you, and it's bringing up some degree of discomfort within them. A very necessary stepping stone at this particular point in time that will determine, how this connection evolves. Are they going to step up to the plate, do the work, kind of hoist themselves out from some degree of lack mentality or a very kind of limited or linear view of themselves, the life they're living, the type of love they truly believe that they are worthy to receive and experience? It's the essence of kind of, you can lead the horse to water, but you can't make it drink. They're kind of in that space right now of just this emotional quenching, this sense of fulfillment that they have been seeking. It is here now, or it's available. They know where to find you. They know how to contact you if you're in no contact or separation from one another. But it's the sense of hesitating to take ownership of that, to truly say to themselves, this is mine. This is available for me if I choose to take steps in the direction of continuing to align with that, co-creating with you, working with these energies as opposed to kind of fighting them or pushing them away. But they're sort of stuck at this threshold of, I don't know if I can take that leap of faith, because there's some sense within them that it goes far beyond just love in this situation. This can also tie into the essence of like power couple energy, or dreams that they've had that have been maybe put on the shelf, or they've sort of lacked the motivation to really sort of get out there and seize the day and make these things happen. There's a sense of almost being motivated or inspired to really pick some of these things back up, things that may have seemed very out of reach, very unattainable for them. It's suddenly there's this hint or this spark of like clarity almost, or motivation to try again, to push forward, try an alternate route, continue going along the path towards some goal. They may feel very uncomfortable with almost how supported they feel by you, particularly if they're surrounded with kind of lower vibrational individuals or circumstances, or they're living a life, they've created a life for themselves that was not the product of a blueprint that aligned with sort of who they are as an individual. Looking around, they may have all the creature comforts, but are sort of lacking in that sense of deep, abiding partnership. And so there's this essence of being very much pulled in your direction, seeing you as someone who can help them to kind of make sense of parts of themselves that have been difficult to reconcile or explain within, a sense of feeling very supported, almost kind of challenged by you in a way that provides motivation, which also kind of lends into the sense of them really seeing that you have their best interests at heart. Even if you've kind of allowed space, you haven't really put pressure on them, or for some of you this could relate to ultimatums. Maybe you've walked away from this person, and they've kind of seen the light in a certain way. Something has clicked for them as far as the significance of you and this connection and kind of your intersection in one another's lives, but they feel very stuck at kind of that place of accepting that yes, this blessing is here, yes, it has arrived, and yes, it is for them. So let's get some of these message cards and see what they want you to know. Okay, and they say, I want to be vulnerable with you. So there is a desire to lean in deeply, to explore these feelings, to kind of take those ideas of further down the road than you are at with one another at this particular point in time, and work together, co-create together to bring this into form, into material reality. But it's a sense of almost fear of the unknown, this vulnerability. I don't know how to operate and move through the world when I've gotten everything that I want. That might be kind of a challenge for them. For a lot of you, this may be a counterpart, a divine counterpart that you're dealing with, that for all intents and purposes, as the outside world would look at this individual's life, there's someone who is living a good life. They're a blessed person. They're fortunate. They're abundant. They have success to some degree. They may have made something very comfortable, or even that is sort of the envy of other people that they are surrounded with. That can attribute to a lot of that sort of lower vibrational energy that's kind of keeping them in a state of not wanting to accept or reach for sort of more than what they have. Almost somebody who says, well, I've got enough. I've created all this other sort of bounty and goodness for myself. So it would be almost greedy or gluttonous to expect that I get everything that I've yearned for. I get everything that I've been calling out for. I do get the full package. I get that love that I've been seeking. I get that person to walk by my side and kind of share and help to build and nurture and sustain and kind of improve and enhance what I've created for myself. There's a part of them that doesn't feel worthy of that at this particular point in time. And so the solution might be just distance or a wall that's up. It's some sort of like psychic barrier within themselves where they just are having a hard time imagining themselves on that timeline where wish fulfillment comes in for them, that it's available for them, and even more of a difficult time accepting that has happened. It is available in the form of this connection and whatever they need to do at this point in order to repair the situation or to continue growing and moving forward with it. They also say you hit me out of nowhere. So you definitely could have sparked some sort of like heart chakra activation, Kundalini awakening, something on like an energetic level. Eye contact is coming through as something very significant. So this might have even been where there was like a jolt, an immediate, almost like love at first sight energy that could really have spun this person into kind of this essence of, well, that's not real. That feels foolish. It feels too fairy tale. It doesn't seem practical. For some people, it's coming up of like too much to lose. So maybe this is sort of, if this is like an opposites attract situation, or ways in which they might be really questioning, how are you going to fit into the life I have created for myself? Kind of a fear of judgment in that capacity. This is an essence of kind of everything being called into question at this particular point in time. Looking around and sort of not really seeing how higher vibrational love, healthy partnership, how that really aligns with sort of everything else going on, or more importantly, sort of aligns with the view that they have of themselves inside. It's the essence of kind of love has arrived, but they don't feel worthy to kind of sit at that table. Certainly it must be somebody else's. They've got the wrong name. They got the wrong person. Certainly this isn't the blessing for me. So kind of stuck in that sort of essence of denial on some level. Kind of focused currently on obstacles and challenges rather than opportunities and creative solutions beyond whatever has sort of stalled them at this particular point in time. They also say, trust me. So even though there is this energy of kind of being in denial to a certain extent, this feels like it definitely comes from way up in the higher self realm or range of, this is not going to be a situation where they're just going to remain stuck in this energy of lack. This may be a very kind of necessary threshold almost that could signify a point of choice. Either they choose to kind of walk through that fear and continue to move in the direction of where they are called with this connection, or for some this may sort of signal that degree of denial could put them in a dark night of the soul energy as you continue to grow and evolve, as you continue to kind of live in the embodiment of your truth. and they maybe perpetuate sort of not aligning with whatever that version of truth is within themselves. This feels like something that either way there's change that needs to happen. Either way, this kind of spark, this flame between the two of you, this recognition, this magnetization, it's not here arbitrarily. It's not just here to be a carrot on the stick, and serve no purpose beyond that, beyond just sort of upsetting something or exacerbating a wound of lack, with no kind of strategy, no anecdote also available to that. So future timeline version of this person, or again, like high layers of the higher self are kind of bringing forth this message of this particular state of almost being in denial of their blessings. It is a cycle, or it's a phase. It's something that there's almost kind of a relentless energy that there'll be a push for something more. If they don't kind of work to sort of transcend that, it almost feels that things will become more uncomfortable. It'll be harder to sort of continue to operate within that strata, or within that sort of life that they've been living, or with that sort of view that they have of themselves. They've seen something, they've opened their eyes. Energetically, they've been opened up by you and this connection, and there's no kind of turning that back off again. So it may be something that it takes a process. It takes some time before they create some kind of action, build that self-esteem, learn to really trust that what has kind of come through for them, what is calling them or compelling them in the direction of investing more in the connection, or repairing the connection. It's not arbitrary. It's not just here for no reason, that there's some kind of divine impetus for them to move in that direction more. They also say, I want to talk to you. So distance, silence at this particular point in time, it feels like it is mainly motivated by sort of a fear component. There's a sense of, if they were to even have small talk with you at this particular point in time, even the slightest interaction, there's a sense of helplessness almost. They would be helplessly kind of pulled into the reality of who you are to them. The blessing and the miracle that this connection, this experience, as uncomfortable as it is at this particular point in time, what that is within their life and within their reality. It ties into the idea of wanting to be vulnerable with you, wanting to move beyond the state of not believing that they are worthy of the purity of love that they sense and feel and experience with you, but kind of stuck in that element of negotiating something as far as their ego is concerned, something as far as like a glass ceiling they've placed around themselves, or that they might not have even realized that they were kind of barricaded within until this situation has occurred, something has sparked, something has been initiated. They will not take action towards that because of a sense of almost feeling it's too good for me. I'm not worthy of that. And so this is something that they must wrestle with. They must grapple with. They must kind of rewrite that narrative and that script within themselves before they're able to provide something more to you. But it feels like it's an important soul lesson, regardless of what happens between the two of you in the future, to where their spirit team and the divine and even their higher self is really wanting your counterpart to focus on this at this particular point in time. There's something to learn. There's something to be gained, whether they take action or just remain in kind of their current timeline. It feels like there's ripple effects and ramifications that are far reaching. They also say, I can't stop thinking of you. So they may be seeing a lot of signs and synchronicities, almost a sense of being haunted by your energy. This could also be something which is bringing up a lot of fear within them, instead of just being able to kind of run from the intensity of not feeling worthy. It's almost like they're being followed by this persistent urge or nudge on the part of the divine, beyond even just what they do in the situation as far as you are concerned. It's an essence of, there's a larger kind of narrative or a program of lack which has been running within your divine counterpart that has affected multiple areas of their life. You in many ways represent kind of this catalytic force for them. They've been presented with soul-stirring love. They've run in the other direction, or have put up some kind of wall or barrier. They can't in their own mind kind of conceive or believe fully that high vibrational experiences in love that they've been calling for, they've been wanting, they've been yearning, they have manifested in a disbelief that this is actually their manifestation, that this is, at least at this particular phase in your connection with one another, there's something that deeper and beyond kind of this that they are meant to really look at, to really sort of hone in on, for kind of their life path in general, maybe something that serves a bigger purpose to kind of nudge them more into alignment with one of the purposes or the big purpose of why they've sort of incarnated on the earth plane at this particular point in time, work as a soul that they have wanted to do to kind of grow and evolve as a result of experiences in past lives. It feels to be something that has many sort of nuanced layers that might definitely be part of the aspect as well that's sort of triggering this essence of that they've put blinders on to a certain extent of really being able to fully envision or hold the vision that they belong with you. You belong with one another. That as much as they're sort of, and it feels like this element of unworthiness, it's a lot of it's energetic as well, that they're failing to see at this particular point in time, almost that, the light that they see in you and that they're intimidated by with you, that they don't feel worthy of kind of calling their own, that it also exists within themselves. They also say, I'm overcoming my fears. So more of that energy that this is just kind of a temporary phase or like a pause in this connection, something that they need to work through that has bigger implications than just what happens next in this connection. This feels to be, for a lot of you, you are in the process of some kind of clause of your soul contract is in the process of playing out. Whatever it is your divine counterpart is now struggling with, or this block, or this glass ceiling, this glass box that they find themselves in, that their life is, that they are kind of discovering that they've sort of encapsulated themselves in, finding a way beyond that. For them, it definitely feels to be kind of the main focus at this time. For you, this might even be sort of, whatever has been triggered for you, a sense of not being picked, kind of unrequited love, or a sense of somebody who may just be moving at like a snail's pace, evolving the connection further. Sort of like there's chemistry, there's spark, we get along really well, there's an intensity here, and yet there's just something that is preventing them with kind of going with the flow of the situation, and that can all just tie back into, again, some sort of lack, an issue as far as worthiness is concerned. But there are kind of larger spiritual forces at play, and almost like a future timeline version of them, or again, sort of higher layers of their higher self that are really pushing and motivating for this clause to be fulfilled within the soul contract. This aspect of the work they need to do as a soul, for that to really take place in this lifetime, for this to be sort of the incident or the experience that may even signal kind of the beginning of a bigger journey or a bigger series of experiences, or like a dark night of the soul, tower moments that can happen as a result of sort of, denying one's personal truth and deliberately or unconsciously kind of living in a dimmed light status. So let's get some initials, and this can be a first, middle, or last name of you or your divine counterpart, or can spell something out, just whatever resonates for you. Got V, R, B, J, S, F, A, L, C, Y, D, and E. So those are your messages. I hope that they resonated with you and that you enjoyed the reading. If you like the video, please give it a thumbs up, comment, subscribe, or share. If you'd like a personal reading, I offer them through my Etsy shop. There's a link to that in the description box of the video. I offer a variety of pre-recorded video readings, written readings, and channeled letters. Turnaround time on everything is 5 to 7 days from the time of purchase. I also sell handmade jewelry, dream catchers, and sun catchers if you're interested in checking any of those out as well. I hope to see you again in another reading. Please take care and be well. Hi, Group 3. Chose the Mookaite Jasper. So I'm just going to be using oracle cards for this reading, and let's take a look and see what has your divine counterpart realized about you and the connection. Okay, we have called, soul gifts and training. It is time to step up. We the Hathors, deep love, mother's milk, birth as a portal. And baby steps, action, follow your intuition before it makes sense. So there's a lot about this connection that does not make sense to your divine counterpart, and yet they feel very motivated to move towards you and strangely trusting about this instinct. It feels to be something that in many ways, maybe steps that they are planning on taking towards you next in this situation are in some way very contradictory to how they normally live their life. This could be somebody who is very risk averse by nature, and maybe the idea of kind of following a sudden pull toward another individual. Maybe you don't know each other that well, you haven't been in a connection with one another that long. This can even be kind of like a deeper sort of expression of feelings for you, or opening lines of discussion toward more long-range plans between the two of you that in some level, relatively speaking, has a degree of impulsivity to it. But rather than being motivated by a place of passion, this is almost a sense of like a higher calling to move in your direction. A sense of, again, something that is kind of outside of the bounds of their ability to fully understand, but there's a sense of them tasting destiny within this connection. Almost like the adventure of a lifetime that they had been waiting for. That has kind of tapped them on the shoulder and is pulling them in another direction. This could be somebody that is typically maybe very guarded with their heart, or might even be somebody who is kind of systematically just has a hard time staying in connections very long. They may be kind of in and out of relationships, very non-committal, or on the flip side of that, kind of a serial monogamist. They get into these long-term connections, deeply embroiled with individuals, and it may be very hard to sort of extract themselves, or they've had to pick up the pieces of heartbreak enough times that they have kind of put on this armor. They become very guarded in terms of when they answer that call of their heart. They become more prudent about these things, more shrewd about these things, not even necessarily in a way that feels kind of like toxicity or wounds that haven't been dealt with properly, but almost somebody who has perhaps learned from past experiences where they wore their heart on their sleeve, and they're more discerning at this particular point in time. You have come into their life and it's like their whole rule book goes out the window. But something that, again, it feels like they're very trusting as far as being compelled towards you. There's a sense of exhilaration behind this. Again, kind of the phrase destiny coming up, that they've been waiting for this, that their path up to this particular point in time, even all the heartbreak that they've been through, or a process of needing to kind of step up those personal boundaries or cultivate some sort of discernment. There's a sense of them having a glimmer or a glimpse of it was all leading to this intersection with you. There's a degree of reverence that they have for you, and kind of what it feels like your presence in their life has unlocked within themselves. You help show them kind of the manifestation of a higher version of them in the material sense, rather than kind of being triggered by what is displayed or mirrored to them by you. This is something where they're leaning in very deeply. They're not running from that uncertainty. They're kind of allowing themselves to be pulled by almost like a higher force or compulsion in the direction of whatever it is that they are needing to kind of face and work through, layers that they are needing to shed in terms of guardedness, almost taking off their armor, link by link, bit by bit, in order to open up more to the idea of expansion in this connection, evolving the connection further, moving in closer, becoming more vulnerable with you, more open and expressive. You feel like home to this person. There's a sense of familiarity, the essence of I recognize myself in your eyes the first time I saw you. It feels like even kind of beyond your first face-to-face interaction with one another, just kind of, seeing you across a crowded room, seeing your picture, you know, kind of catching sight of you in a certain way, even just sort of a moment of kind of passing eye contact, or looking at like a still shot of your eyes in a photograph has opened something within them. It opens something within them very immediately that is, again, kind of this trusting energy where their rules go out the window, how they typically sort of live their life, or move in accordance with certain principles, emotionally speaking. There's almost kind of a willingness or a trust at this particular point in time to expand those boundaries, to kind of open up some sort of drawbridge that they have kind of around their heart. Someone who's like fortified themselves within their heart. And it feels to be something that kind of defies in a lot of ways the reasons, like, why would I be opening up to someone like this? Why would I want this closeness? Why would I kind of like yearn to invite this person in, or to call them into my life, to receive them more deeply into my reality? I don't know them that well. You know, I haven't known them that long. I've been through certain things in my life, and there's kind of a prescription or a plan or a program that I follow to vet people out, to make sure I'm comfortable, they're comfortable, and there's just this sense of kind of like a hand of fate guiding them, not in a degree that is almost careless, but it's a sense of almost being a lot more willing to take risks than has typically been the case. It's a strange degree of trust that they have for you and for this situation. You really help to kind of, it almost feels like in a way you might be kind of calling them beyond some sort of like a healing trap that they'd had themselves in. That can tie into like that fortress energy and the armor of almost someone who has been making a very concerted effort to kind of you know, learn their patterns, kind of rewrite any sort of programs or scripts within themselves that are not aligning with that best life. This may be somebody who's been very devoted to their healing and, you know, kind of trying to create something different for themselves and has been the course in their life up to this particular point in time. But it feels like they might have gotten stuck in the mire of kind of perpetually the work in progress, always healing, always something to kind of look at and criticize and improve upon. And you coax your divine counterpart into a state of acceptance for themselves as they are in this moment. You provide some degree of peace, almost that like a switch has flipped within them. Not that they're foregoing any of their kind of practices or whatever they've been focusing on to kind of do some healing, maybe even kind of like ancestral healing, inner child work, things of that nature. It's almost the sense of that in a certain way they're getting off their own case. They're getting out of their own way. You inspire them to kind of accept this version of themselves and to transcend kind of the idea that they must love themselves in order to love another person. This is the sense of almost, you inspire within them this understanding that they are lovable as they are right now, that there is kind of no state of perfection, that they are worthy to receive, and the love they hold inside is more than good enough to give to another person. Even at the stage where you know, they or you or both of you are still going through this process of healing, you really encourage them to kind of ease up on a tight grip they've had around themselves, like a prohibition almost, that is kind of the result of sort of this, a belief system in brokenness almost. You help them to recognize that they have remedied so much within themselves, and kind of, you know, the next maybe phase of their own healing journey or personal growth, or, you know, even the experiences of love and partnership, that there's healing to be experienced through allowing allowing someone else to kind of enter their world, enter that heart space, to co-create with you in that capacity. That's just as beautiful or a productive of an experience in healing, in growth, in kind of bettering themselves as whatever they've been doing up to this point in time, in more of like a sheltered or solitary energy. So let's get a few more oracle cards and see what else they want to tell you, or rather what else they have discovered and realized about you and the connection. I'll get some message cards from their higher self in a minute, and then we'll see what they want to tell you, but let's see what else they've realized. We have the uncharted sea, broken open, and willing release. So this willing release speaks about the sense that the two of you could really help and support one another, or they feel very supported and assisted by you at this particular point in time, and kind of making some sort of wish for a better relationship with themselves, or a better experience of kind of the world in general, the life they're living in general, just their daily grind, their daily experience. You've infused almost this kind of whimsical light of possibility that has really caused them to sort of stop and smell the roses, to really kind of get out, stretch outside of their comfort zone, break out of some kind of cage or shell where they have sort of had themselves tucked away for sort of self-protective means and methods, and also it feels like to work to kind of improve and transcend any difficulties they've had before. There's a sense of almost you've opened a window that helps them see not only that they're good enough as they are, but that there's almost kind of like a whole world of possibilities that is available through kind of continuing on from this point as this version of them with you by their side. Kind of the idea of like stronger together, but then there's also an energy of freedom within this. They feel very free to be themselves, and with that is almost the sense as well of wanting to kind of take a lot of this untapped potential between the two of you and create something that's almost kind of a new paradigm for a relationship that is very different from what they've known before. Almost like the healing that they've done up to this point in time has now resulted in this experience of here's someone to kind of act out or manifest with or create kind of all of these things that you've worked on within yourself, all of the kind of mantras and the beliefs and sort of the restructuring of the nature of the relationship with self. Now is the time to kind of bring that out into the flesh, into like a human to human experience with another person. To really sort of crystallize in that wisdom or that experience of a higher vibration through a loving partnership, and not just an arbitrary one, but one that sort of they're feeling meets them on that sort of higher level. They see you as somebody with a lot of good intentions, a purity within you, a purity of heart. Again, this idea of broken open, you've definitely cracked them out of some kind of cage where they almost had been stuck in a loop or a cycle of looking for imperfections within themselves, or almost trying to get too detail oriented with sort of perfecting the little nooks and crannies of their personality, or almost just striving for this very idealized version of what the best version of them looks like. You've entered their world and their reality, and it's something which has almost immediately kind of pivoted them in the direction of wanting to open up, wanting to dive in, wanting to experience loving partnerships. The idea of kind of loving as if they've never been hurt before, but not in a way that brings up kind of a fear of naivete or a fear of being hurt again. There's a trust almost that is helping them to understand in many ways that they have transcended, looking back on some of the things that they had set out or endeavored to accomplish or to overcome, and maybe had gotten so kind of wrapped up in the process of trying to overcome these things, they had failed to recognize just how much progress that they've made. You unshoulder for them some kind of burden or weight of something emotionally, or a series of things emotionally that they have been compelled to work on, or they were told that they needed to work on. They bought into the belief that they needed to work on these things, that they were somehow imperfect, that somehow if they didn't love themselves completely enough, then that they should just might as well kind of stay contained, that the love they had to give was of no use to another person. And it feels like in a way, almost without words, you freed them from that illusion. You have represented, or you represent kind of this call beyond that cocoon. You've knocked on the door of the cocoon, or you've been sent there, to kind of represent this compelling force beyond it. And so it feels that this is something where your divine counterpart is recognizing that you are that next step on that healing journey. You are that higher horizon. You are that higher love that they have been working to cultivate and become within themselves. Now this exists fully flesh in front of them, and it's something where they're allowing themselves definitely to be pulled in that direction. without kind of the usual fears, without the overthinking, without sort of the doubts clouding. It feels even like already at this point in time in your connection, they have successfully sort of passed tests for themselves, as far as, maybe kind of habits or shadows within themselves that typically would have sort of come up and steered connections in certain directions, or might have been kind of early warning signs or a reflection of like patterns that they were falling back into for themselves. There's an essence of that having been transcended with no effort, almost kind of spontaneously just moving beyond the point of where things usually had fallen apart or had started to kind of go on the downward slope for them in terms of emotions or even feelings within themselves. Kind of this might even be somebody that typically is kind of an avoidant attachment style. Intimacy happens and they run. There's a sense of the closeness with you. They're not running, and they almost didn't notice that. It feels like until they've kind of reached this place of, we're still here with one another and I'm still very much present. I'm still very much moving with the flow. I'm still very much compelled toward this person. I have not fallen into that same like loop or pattern where things get really close for comfort or too close for comfort and I'm kind of running in the other direction. It's almost like they're continuing to grow and evolve and very sort of curious as to what happens next. Definitely a sense of you are the companion that was sort of waiting or being prepared behind the scenes for this juncture in their own sort of personal experience. They're seeing that it is no accident that the two of you have crossed paths, and again there's some kind of higher call or compulsion that to continue to experience or explore or hold space for this connection. This is something that is in accordance with like a healing or ascension path or just a determined course of action they've had for themselves in other ways in their life. Like you fit into that equation or you make sense as far as what that journey or that process will look like in the next sort of layer or phase. So let's see what they want to tell you from their higher self. And they say, I just need more time. So again, this may be somebody who has already committed themselves to some kind of healing path, ascension path, personal growth path, to where they are very invested in kind of exploring what more this connection has to kind of offer, what more is to be experienced, kind of what more is to be revealed in this situation. But this is also somebody who is very cognizant and acknowledges the fact that a lot of themselves is kind of invested in or committed to a particular path in another sort of way. So there's an essence of not rushing, but going with the flow in this situation. They're very cognizant of kind of a higher pull from themselves to you, but this is something where they see and they feel and are experiencing that you fit in very nicely with something that they've already been in the midst of trying to cultivate for themselves, which speaks to a lot of, this can even be kind of like a healthier layer within this connection that might be different from what they are used to. This could be somebody who typically kind of loses themselves to connections or, has a history of kind of calling in partners that dissolve or kind of mimic or chameleon this person's energy and kind of take a lot, drain a lot, energetically speaking, become that sort of focus. This might be somebody who has a history of like codependency or kind of like toxic, needy sort of partners. And in this essence of this connection, it's almost, you are unlike anyone that they have experienced romantically, and you bring out a different version of them. There's not so much of the essence of, I need to be on guard with my energy, I need to keep my boundaries in place, but there's a sense of almost like an unspoken acceptance that the two of you each have your own kind of lives and realities, your own sort of things that you are working on, and yet there's this space in the middle where something is being cultivated between the two of you. And so it's the essence of kind of enjoying this process, enjoying the unfolding, enjoying the mystery, enjoying kind of following that higher calling beyond sort of how they've been living their life prior to you entering it, what has been kind of awoken within them and is being sort of shown to them, and sort of the next steps from there. They also say, you will always be my secret love. So this ties into the idea of the person that they've dreamed of, the one, wish fulfillment. This person might have even dreamed of you before they met you, and this could be something that, rather than letting that kind of just slip by them, or they hadn't noticed, or that could have sort of led to almost an overthinking that could have created like a stall or a boundary in this situation. It almost feels to be something that there could have been a recognition of, this is the person from my dreams or of my dreams, and they're just moving in that direction. They're not questioning it. They're evolved enough on their own path to know things like this hold a significance, that they are best served by kind of moving in certain directions of mystery without having kind of all the answers. That idea of the secret love also speaks to kind of holding oneself back, not losing themselves in the connection, not allowing someone to kind of leech on or clamp on to them and kind of derail them from other things that they prioritize or that they have been working on. There's a sense of almost kind of like comfort within that, with whatever's been spoken and expressed, with whatever still needs time to gestate and develop and grow. They're feeling an absence of pressure to live up to a certain expectation, or to be more expressive sooner than they would like to be, or to kind of just pour everything into this situation very quickly. And that in and of itself feels to be a breath of fresh air. That's giving them a lot of trust as far as you are concerned, because the energy you approach them with, or what you bring to the table, or who you are as a person, it is very different than what they've known in love and partnerships. And so this feels to be someone who's just going with the flow, enjoying this experience, and kind of what that will hold for them. They also say, wait for me. So although they're going with the flow at this particular point in time, they do intend to accelerate things. They're not just going to kind of remain in this passivity, I will follow where you are leading me sort of energy forever. Again, they may be kind of in the midst of wrapping up perhaps some ancestral healing, or at least wrapping up a phase of some ancestral healing, some inner child work, and have kind of devoted themselves to that. Maybe there are other projects or endeavors that they are working through, other things, cycles they're trying to close out in their life, with this idea of willing release, a lot that they have on their plate at this particular point in time. And it's a sense of not kind of like a wait for me forever and ever, till the end of time sort of energy. It's the sense of almost they've got some things they're in the midst of trying to wrap up, and then they will have more of themselves to devote to, this connection, toward developing things further. So it's a sense of them understanding that they don't want to miss an opportunity with you. They don't want things to fall into a place of stagnation. They don't expect kind of the higher energies of this situation to just do all the heavy lifting. They understand on some level that it will take action from them in order to, create clear enough communication that a road forward becomes available, or you start co-creating with one another in that capacity. So whatever they're showing to you at this point in time, or expressing wherever you're at in your connection with one another, this is definitely the essence of, they have more far-reaching goals or plans than that, but it's something that's almost through a process of like patience, or something very, very methodical, or that it's kind of dependent on other things sort of wrapping up, or them being able to kind of have more of their attention, have more of their time to themselves, to be able to kind of dive in fully with you, that they're prioritizing you in this situation, almost to the extent of sort of not wanting to give you promises that they cannot fulfill, and also to a certain extent kind of moving in this passive sort of flow state energy at this particular point in time, because they're not wanting to kind of give you any sort of impression that they are less than all the way invested in you. And so it may be something where it's kind of just moving organically at this particular point in time, but they do have this intention of making more of a concerted effort, making something very clear and abundant to you. They also say, I don't want to let you down. So this can tie into, healing, personal growth, anything that they're working on as far as abundance, finances, changes within their life, any kind of cycles that they're wrapping up. There's a motivation to see these things through to completion, because in some way it almost feels that it finishes something that they started. And it also kind of wraps up a sense of like loose ends, so that they have more of themselves to give to you. They're wanting to continue to evolve and grow and develop with this connection, and continue to show you kind of the layers of what that best version of them is, what they've cultivated, that version of them that has answered the call of the divine, or through the recognition of you, to kind of leave behind some perception of brokenness within themselves. You've helped them to kind of understand that they are loving, that they love themselves enough, and it is time now to experience that love with another person. And so it's something to where the bar has almost been raised very high in terms of what they are wanting to bring to the table, emotionally, romantically speaking. Maybe they're aware of what you've been through on your journey, or even just their journey in life up to this point in time, that there's a sense of kind of wanting to show you how love should be, wanting to show you a higher vibration and quality of love, even than they as a person were capable of giving to other people in their past. They've grown, they've healed, they've evolved in some kind of way from the version of who they were before. And so there's the sense of almost like, now the person has arrived that I was preparing myself for. Here is the heart that is worthy to receive kind of the best of me. They also say, I'm ready for more than just texts. So again, this essence of wanting to explore something beyond however you are defined to one another at this particular point in time, wanting to create more intimacy, more closeness, more face-to-face interactions, or a face-to-face interaction for the first time if this is somebody that you're still kind of at a distance with, or you've not met in person yet. There's this energy here of evolution and growth, and really, again, kind of making promises with the intention of follow through. They're wanting to demonstrate to you consistency in a way that may have been lacking up to this point in time in the connection. It feels like it was definitely lacking in other sort of romantic circumstances, or people that they had magnetized in or had welcomed into their life and into their heart previously. There's a sense of them understanding that they could experience true reciprocity in this situation with you. And so they're continuing, it feels like, along some kind of process for themselves of sort of becoming that love that they have been seeking, in order to kind of give you more of the fullness of who they are and what they have become, that is a reflection of kind of what they've been wanting. They also say, I thought about reaching out, but I don't know what to say. So again, they're not wanting to make promises that they cannot fulfill. They're not wanting to get your hopes up and not be able to deliver consistently. This is something where there's a lot that's in their heart that still needs to kind of move out of the space of feeling into putting these things to words, plans of action that they are needing to kind of implement or create from this point forward, other things that may have their attention, or somebody who may be kind of pulled in a lot of different directions, has a lot on their plate. And so this situation, this connection, is almost kind of motivation. When these other things wrap up, when I've completed this other sort of cycle of what I'm doing, what I'm involved with, here is the direction that I am moving going forward. Here is the place where I choose to invest myself. Here is where my heart is calling me. Here is the home that I am returning to. So let's get some initials, and this can be a first, middle, or last name of you or your divine counterpart, or it can spell something out, just whatever resonates for you. Got W, V, S, V, A, P, D, Z, Y, C, M, E, R, F, N, B, O, and B. So those are your messages. I hope that they resonated with you and that you enjoyed the reading. If you like the video, please give it a thumbs up, comment, subscribe, or share. If you'd like a personal reading, I offer them through my Etsy shop, and there's a link to that in the description box of the video. I offer a variety of pre-recorded video readings, written readings, and channeled letters. Turnaround time on everything is 5 to 7 days from the time of purchase. I also sell handmade jewelry, dream catchers, and sun catchers if you're interested in checking any of those out as well. I hope to see you again in another reading. Please take care and be well.